Hello, and thank you for joining us for our Winter Orchestra concert. This is our memorial-only concert. This is the second year I think we've done a concert where it's just showcasing our groups for memorial. And we're going to start with our youngest memorial orchestra students, our 6th grade. We're going to move up to our 7th grade and then finish with our 8th grade. This is a fabulous and enormous 6th grade orchestra that you see on stage. Kind of record setting. We have 50 6th graders. And most of them are on stage right now. Can we just have a round of applause for their first concert? Most of these students participated in 5th grade, and I want you to think back to what that 5th grade orchestra concert sounded like. I know we were super proud of them, and we all were like, yeah, you guys are amazing. But they were playing a lot of songs out of the book, and most of them a little pizzicato. You guys are going to be blown away when you hear what they have learned in just this little bit of time. I want to introduce another amazing addition to our orchestra program, Miss Lowe. Incredible to get to work with Miss Lowe for this class. It's just too many kids versus just me, and it's wonderful to be able to split them up and do a little bit of sectional time. Everybody gets a little time for extra help if they need it. So Miss Lowe is going to conduct our first song called Ninja. for our 7th grade group, you've already seen them at least once this year, but we've been learning a lot of new things in this short amount of time, starting with shifting. So that's something that we started learning a little bit before the first concert, but it's a big deal, especially because we're playing a song called Night Shift. Everybody has to shift at some point. So that's where we're taking our hand from our safe and comfortable first position, and we've learned how to read notes in different positions on the fingerboard. We can play even higher notes, and it's a big challenge because we've never left first position before. We've never seen notes this high before. It's a big technique that's important in string playing. We've also been learning how to do vibrato, which is the coveted technique. It's the shaky finger thing that they're always asking me about ever since they see it when they're 1st and 5th grade. So you'll see a little bit of finger wiggling going on, and you might wonder what it is, but it's a technique that helps them sound more professional and more mature. So we're going to start off with Night Shift. We have a very interesting second song and a nice happy ending to our concert with Quintus. So here's our 7th grade orchestra.
All right, good evening. We're going to conclude tonight with some 8th grade things, but before I send in an email to parents regarding some items coming up in the 8th grade orchestra, I thought it would be best to kind of address some of the big questions and concerns here tonight before you receive that information. First, I was going to talk just very briefly about high school auditions. Right now we're in audition season, and the auditions this year are, you may have heard some conflicting information, right? They were originally due Friday, March 13th. That's the first day of spring break. I had some students express that, although they're practicing that week when they don't have other classes and tests to worry about, that might actually be the best time for them to get their best recording of the excerpts that are needed for whatever class they're trying for. That's fine. I'm going to be at Disney World that week, so I'll just grade them when we get back. So they're now due Friday, March 20th. So to give the students that chance. If you go into your student's Schoology page, you'll notice a folder in the 8th grade class titled 2020-21 High School Auditions. There's a pretty lengthy PDF that starts off that folder. I would highly recommend reading that before it gets too close to the audition deadline. There's some key points I want everyone to understand. One is that when you receive your recommendation schedule, it either was blank or it said concert orchestra. I ask that they fill that in as concert orchestra for everybody. That's a request from the high school guidance department, and we've just over the years seen that if we try to get it right at the middle school level, and then when they transition up here, and the high school guidance counselors who don't really know the students at all try to weed through the mess of it, it becomes more complex than it's worth. So we recommend everybody for concert, everybody's signed up for concert next year, and then after auditions are solidified, you'll find out the results 1 week after they're submitted, and then those lists I take to the guidance department and we sit down, and it takes an hour or two, but then the lists are actually accurate before summer starts, so when you get your schedules for high school, they should be accurate. But don't panic, because there always are a few cases that we have to fix that first week of school, because once the last day of school is over, the guidance side of things kind of is non-existent until we get back into school, which is understandable. So those problems are always fixed. Concert orchestra is what everyone was recommended for because you don't need an audition for that class. It's a fantastic class. I teach that at the high school each morning. The students in that class are a lot more involved in the curriculum. That class changes from year to year. I know the students that are coming in, so it's easier to predict, but a typical concert series for that class is, here are a list of pieces that I think the class would sound great at playing. Let's listen to them, let's get into them, let's play a bit of it. What do you like? What do you want to learn about it? It's pretty student-driven, the concert orchestra level. There's not a lot of expectation that the students are taking their instrument home every single day and practicing. In fact, I'll be honest, there are more than a few concert orchestra students that probably don't ever take their instrument home, and they get well into the A range, and they sound great at the level that we play. They really enjoy that class. The most important thing that I can say here is that the high school orchestra department is much more of a community than you're used to at the middle school level. I couldn't stress enough that if you know a high schooler, chat with them, and more importantly, if you know a high schooler's parents, chat with them about how things work at the high school. I'm sure they could describe it in more detail to you specific. The next level is String Sinfonia. That's the first class that the students have to audition for. All the music that you're going to hear our 8th grade orchestra for Memorial play, these are very difficult 8th grade tunes. Sinfonia does take that next step up to the next level, but you'll notice again, because sometimes I'll see in their faces when we open audition material that first day, it's panic. Oh my gosh, those are not notes that we're super comfortable with. However, I don't think any of the students up here would look at the audition material for Sinfonia and say, I have never seen that before, it is completely foreign, I have no idea. If that's the case, I'm sure I can clear it up with some reminders of things that have happened in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. But that Sinfonia level is about honing in at a, we call it a superior level, but that's an OMEA Ohio Music Educators Association's designation. That's a rating that we try to obtain each year at the high school level. And superior just means that you made very few mistakes. It doesn't actually mean we're facing off against another school, sometimes a misconception. But when you look at those excerpts, you'll notice that they're pretty short. I'm not asking the students to play an entire piece. It's one scale, they can choose the scale. 2 excerpts from a piece that actually is being taught in Sinfonia at this time, and is a piece that Sinfonia is taking next week to perform at our state orchestra contest, where we are adjudicated and rated. After that, it gets a little bit more complex, okay? Because the symphony class does require all of the audition excerpts for the Sinfonia class. And then in addition to that, there are some other excerpts that, look, your student's gonna open that, even if they've been in lessons for a year or so, it's crazy hard. It's really, really difficult stuff. There are very few high schools in the state that make it to that level. Mannheim and Symphony Orchestra are both in OMEA Class AA, which is the highest classification you can get to. What I want to stress, what I've stressed to them and what I'd like to stress to you now is it's very bold on the last page. I am not expecting anywhere near perfection in these videos at the Sinfonia level or at the symphony level. We're not looking for 8th graders to come in and be the best players. That's not what it's about. What I'm looking for is, without daily instruction at the 8th grade level, what are you able to do with little bits of information from me? I have some resource videos on Schoology as well that they can watch of my high schoolers actually playing those excerpts. How close can you get over those 6 weeks? All right, because in the symphony level and the Mannheim level especially, we acknowledge that the freshmen are there because they've worked hard enough to get to a point where there's probably not a ton that's going to progress them taking the Sinfonia level. Okay, as great as that class is, sometimes that situation occurs. There won't be a ton of freshmen that make symphony in Mannheim, but it does happen each year, usually in that 5 to 7, maybe 8 range at the most. It does happen, and we need those students desperately. But I'm sure if you talk to any of the freshmen in Symphony in Mannheim at the moment, they would tell you that, we're not harping on them to go out and play perfect. They're in a class on the varsity level. There's juniors and seniors, students that have 3, 4, 5 years more experience than they do. And that's a pretty powerful ensemble. I would really suggest, if you have next Tuesday night available, 1 week from tonight, Sinfonia, Mannheim, and Symphony are all 3 groups that you need to audition for. It's a pretty short concert. We're going to debut all of our state orchestra material, so you get a really good chance to see, this is kind of what my student sounds like at home, and this is kind of one of those 3 groups. Even if you're not a musician, I'm sure you'd be able to hear, and I can't stress enough, if you have any questions, please shoot me an email. If I don't respond, send it again. Keep sending it, I will respond. So that covers auditions. Again, parent conferences coming up. If you have any further questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them then. But also, I will be sending home a more detailed little paragraph, or sometimes 2, about where I think your students' strengths lie and what I've seen in class. And sometimes, really, I send that home because a lot of times I get students to get nervous and they think, oh, well, I'm just going to do concert, it'll be fine, which is fine, that's great. Concert orchestra is full of amazing students. But sometimes I feel like you should probably be in Sinfonia or Symphony. Though we talk in class, there are some rehearsals where I definitely come in trying to teach that top level. And if your students like those classes where the pace is really fast, it's stopping, saying a couple of comments, jump right back in, a couple more stops, more comments, it moves really quick. If they like those classes, probably make sure that they submit one of those auditions, okay? I'll take a poll and see who's auditioning, and then that's when you'll get that information about, hey, your student didn't sign up for an audition. I really think they should, okay? So those messages will be coming home really, really soon. Also, I want to mention that I sent an email home, and if this is the first time you're hearing about it, don't worry, this is There's plenty of time, but we have on Saturday, March 28th, we have an excellent Mentor Orchestra Association fundraiser dinner that's taking place at Paradigm. I put it in the email. I'm sure you'll see it as it draws closer, but there are a limited amount of seats. Paradigm's only so big. Our orchestra program is much bigger than would fit in there. So if you're interested in being a part of that, I wouldn't wait. I would send that form in with your students as soon as possible. You can also go on to mentororchestra.com and buy tickets right through the site. It takes credit cards. You can send in checks, cash, all of that. One big change, if you were part of this event that we had 2 years ago, the big change is the ticket price. We were charging $125 for 2 tickets last time around. This time tickets are $25. For a dinner, Mannheim students are broken up into small groups and performing. There's lots of awesome prizes to be raffled off and bid upon. This is really a great value at $25. And the beauty of having it in Paradigm is that we're going to be able to keep a lot more of the money that's raised. We're going to transition now to the 8th grade orchestra from Memorial. And in this second quarter, this second concert series, we really focused on taking music of the 8th grade level and moving them into that category of what our Ohio governing body determines as superior level. Since we're in high school contest season, I sort of transitioned that right into middle school. And so these next pieces we've tried to, in terms of volume, articulation, rhythm, we've tried to be absolutely as precise as we can. They've done an incredible job. Ready, guys? All right. 8th grade orchestra from Memorial. We'll get started. Thank you. as we switch our last couple of seats for our last tune. I see Miss Driscoll. Is Miss Lowe over there somewhere? Miss Lowe, did she? Can we have Miss Driscoll and Miss Lowe stand up? I thought 6th and 7th grade sounded so great. Awesome job, you guys. It was so great. Nice job. It's been a while since I taught 6th or 7th grade. Oh, Conquistador, Gauntlet. I really love those. Those were great. We're going to end this evening with a piece called The Swashbuckler's Saga. This one's just straight up fun. Pretty outstanding. I always forget one thing. Tonight is a Dairy Queen fundraiser in Lakeshore, right? Lakeshore Dairy Queen tonight's our fundraiser. So like after an awesome win like tonight, take your kids for some ice cream. Always a good idea. Ice cream when it's cold. Who's in? You in? They're all in. They're so in. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you in May for the concert. See you next Tuesday at the high school concert.